See, hopefully everything goes good.
What's with the steering wheel?
Tight.
Oh,
What?
he's using it to hold his phone up.
Yeah.
You don't have like a little kicker?
What
No.
kicker?
No.
What are you talking about?
Anyway,
anyways.
let's go live.
Indeed, folks, welcome. And whoa, you're
My
right
bad.
there.
Yeah, my bad. Sorry, breaking the
Okay.
whole thing. So,
Starting
like
off on
a
a
little
good
excited.
foot.
A little excited.
A little excited.
I'm a little jumpy.
Oh boy,
Told
Any
you this
case.
table is on.
guys, welcome back. Before we get started, I kind of wanted to go over some quick updates and some quick notes. First off, I want to thank on behalf of everybody that was in part of the whole Klutch Kickers live stream. Want to thank you all for tuning in. We had just as much fun out there. I mean, with everybody that was tuning in, it was a crazy weekend, and we're just glad that everybody that tuned in had a good time, because it really was. So
Yeah.
make sure to check out the next event, which is taking place August
20th through 22nd.
20th through the 22nd. Also, be aware they're actually... So they sold out of the tornado shirts that were a limited run. And
I bought all of them.
Yeah. No, I guess Noel did buy all of them. They sold out of those shirts at the track, but they are planning to do a pre-order. So make sure to follow the Klutch Kickers Instagram. I'm sure they will make an announcement at some point when that goes live. So be sure to check that out. What else did I wanted to mention? And the Holy Shift Fest, which is that's coming up soon. So stay tuned for that. And anything,
I think that's week. Isn't it the week after?
It's the
Klutch
week out.
Kick-
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
weekend
Week
so-
after Klutch Kickers.
Yeah,
That's a
28th
two-
and 29th.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's going to be camping music festival. There's
Yeah.
a lot of people upset. I've seen in some certain chats, but yeah,
Oh, boy.
I think certain things weren't explained to all. But yeah, it doesn't really cost all that much if you come with a driver. I think it was like $20-something bucks. But it's the idea behind that is just to try to get more drifting fans from. We did that remember we did US Drift Circuit at the stadium.
Mhm.
We did
Yeah.
a big event. We actually had like almost 4,000 people show up, and this was at the Dolphin Stadium. And we had a car show, a talent competition. We had solo competition and tandem competition running side by side. And you get new fans that way. So like it or hate it, it as long as it produces new fans, it'll achieve its goal.
Absolutely.
okay. What? No.
No, that's it. That was all,
Okay.
That's all I wanted.
There was a couple of other things, but I can't really recall at the moment. Let's just go ahead and introduce our special guest of the evening. You know him as the only returning judge of the Klutch Kickers $100,000 Drift Series. Whether you know him as that or his love for Toyotas, let's give it up for Mr. Will Parsons.
Yay, we need we gotta get some sound effects.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We used to have sound
Crazy
effects.
Yes.
sound effects.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
It's nice to be here.
Well, we're glad you can make it. I know it was a crazy maybe not as crazy as the previous round, arguably, but you made it, you're here, and I think the first question that I have in mind that I want to start off with is, when did your love for Toyotas begin?
Love for Toyotas. Probably around 2003-ish. I grew up in a small town in Belleville, Texas. It's like really tiny. Graduated high school, and I was always into domestics when I was in school. I liked Chevrolet and V8s and stuff. And then I moved to Tulsa, Oklahoma to go to flight school. And I got a job at a local movie theater, and all of my coworkers they're a little bit younger than me. So they were still like graduating high school, like just graduated high school, and they all had MK3 Supras. And that's when my love for Toyota started, was riding around with those guys in their MK3s.
Nice.
What was it about the MK3 that stood out for you?
Well,
Was it the weight?
I honestly didn't know what an MK3 was until I saw theirs. I was like, what is that car? Like, I've never seen that car before. I knew what an MK4 was, but I didn't really know what it was. And they also are the people that really introduced me to drifting also. There's a couple of them that were into drifting, and one of them actually had an A86, which I didn't really know about those cars either until that guy. And then I was hooked instantly.
Oh, nice. So did you guys, I mean, back then, so what year was that? You said 2003? 2003.
Yeah.
Wow, so we're talking way back.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, I know.
Not to
It
date
was
myself.
Yeah, but that's good that people can see that, right? Because a lot of times you get new people in the stream, or people watch Klutch Kickers and they don't know where you guys are from, or these guys don't know how to judge. Of course, you get a lot of garbage on the chat, right?
Yeah.
But
Definitely.
when I was talking on the live stream, I mentioned quite a few times that between the three of you guys, you have almost 50 years of experience.
Yeah, it's insane.
Right. So, and a good amount of that has been also not just driving, but a lot of behind the scenes with running events. Is that correct?
Yes, it is for sure.
Previous
We've
to
definitely been in a bunch.
previous to Klutch Kickers, what other events were you involved with?
Well, I was heavily involved with the original group in Texas was called Daily Drifter, or original group in Houston, I should say. And it was ran by a guy named John Yim, who has recently started drifting again. And that's who kind of ran like the Pro-Am series at that time, which was like 2006, 2007, like in there. And Aaron ran events, but in like Dallas, Fort Worth area. So when Daily Drifter kind of died, then Aaron, and it was called Fabricated Motorsports, but he sort of took over like the Houston, like basically the whole drift scene in Texas for the most part. And so I was heavily involved with those events also. That's where I got my FD license, and all that was through Lone Star Drift.
So how did that? What? Let me rephrase the question. When you're driving, right, and you want to do events, how did you get roped into trying to run events back then, or be a part of it? Is it just because nobody else was stepping up, or you just saw that nobody knew what the heck they were doing, so you're like, somebody's got to run this thing, or was it just you guys saying, listen, we want to provide something for the local community kind of thing?
Well, they always like were doing a good job, and I mean, I mostly drove the events until 2012 is when I got my FD license, and then 2013 is when I went to FD. So then I became really heavily involved with the more like judging and running the event side, like to help him, because I felt like I was giving back to, the series that helped me get to where I was at, if you follow me. Before that, it was more just like showing up to all the events, like, getting all my friends to go, things like that, supporting them that way is more than running the events. But I was always friends with Aaron and with John, so I was always right from the beginning, basically. I don't know. They both did good.
Yeah, no, that's good stuff, because we used to run, me and my brother and Ben, we used to run the events down here, and it was kind of something that just, we didn't really have anything, so we kind of got thrown into it, right, in order to provide something for everybody locally.
What really happened was that you got the felony for drifting.
Yeah, so yeah, for practicing on the street, right? Like I could barely do a figure eight, and here I am going. But anyways. So yeah, so I was like, it's like nothing you can be proud of it. It's not like I was blowing through an intersection, full angle and smoke and everything. No, I was barely doing a figure eight. It was like, yeah, that's.
Well, that's when we figured. That's when we said, look, we gotta find a track, and there was no tracks down here, so we had to figure out something. Luckily, a drag strip just opened at the time.
Yeah, the drag strip open. We were able to figure something out. That's gone now, but we have US Drift with Jackson Performance that does that and does the Sebring events. So it's what we got. Unfortunately, it's not too close. And you got OSW and OKC. So there's stuff a few hour drives away. Another thing I wanted to ask you is, so you have a pretty extensive driving career, not just driving, but also with running the events, judging events. But take all the events, and what could you point, or what event do you think could you name like was your all-time favorite? Whether it be a track that you've always wanted to drive, or be with a group of people that you always wanted to drive with. Basically, I guess, what would be your drifting highlight? If you had to pick a shining moment in all your drift career, what would you think would be your favorite of all time?
Whew, that's a tough question.
Yeah.
Favorite of all time, probably for like just vibes and everything, would be Laughlin Pro-Am in 2007.
Oh,
I remember that one.
What made that so special?
Well, so how they used to do FD licensing, you would drive in your local series and you had to finish within a certain place. So from Texas, they invited 8 people. So 8 people basically from every region all over the country. So there was guys from Florida, there was guys from Chicago, there was guys from
Ryan. Kaufman
Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay.
A lot of people did it, but so everybody got invited, and it was like they hyped it really well. And so then everybody went to this weird place in Nevada, Laughlin, Nevada, which is it's a gambling town, but it's right on the border of Arizona. And the track is actually in Arizona, and they paved it like randomly in a parking lot. But it just was amazing as far as meeting people and everybody just being real excited and representing their region. I don't know. I've been to a lot of events, and all the events after that are more cutthroat. Like, people aren't trying to be friends. You know, it's real serious. That event was real serious, but it also was, everybody was just excited to have been invited, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense.
Absolutely.
That's cool.
I wanted to say, because I know 2013 was your first year in FD, so I wanted to talk about the fact that you come into the series with an 8.6, still powered by a 4AG. How did it feel to come in with a knife to a gunfight, essentially?
Well, so in 2013, I had the F20.
Oh, okay. I was wrong then.
Yeah, but it still was way underpowered. It was, I knew the car like wouldn't be able to be as fast as some of the other cars I was going against. It was more like, can I hang skill wise? Which I feel like I can driving wise. I should have prepared better. But going in, really, I had just open mind about the whole thing, and I was just ready to just go to each round and do my best. It actually was really fun. The first year in FD, for all the struggles and everything, it was a really good time.
Yeah, I was excited about that year because it was like a small influx of 86s, and I was still an 8.6 guy at that time. You had you coming in, Luke Pakula, and you still had Taka. So it was, and I was always rooting you guys on, and it was like, oh, so close.
Yeah,
so close. Yeah.
Nice.
And it was a tough year for all of us. Taka did the best, obviously.
Yeah.
We did our best too, me and Luke. It was tough, but it was really fun too, just learning the ropes, and still had a lot of hope at that point.
So currently, as far as on the drivers, as far as being a driver, where are you at? Do you have tell anybody, are you building something right now? What are you driving right now? Are you looking to do events?
Well, I still have my SC, which is 1J, and it's stock twins, and I still drive it occasionally. I drive No Coast every year, which is like my favorite event to go to. I've been focusing a lot on Klutch Kickers, and that takes up a good chunk of time and days off. I still love driving. There's local events here in Houston, but I haven't been making them recently. Mostly just driving No Coast. We had a EYB in New Orleans, but that seems like it's gone. So
Hmm.
not sure.
Right. So, any future plans to develop that car further, or just with Klutch Kickers just keeping too busy?
Well, I go back and forth. So I love driving the car. I really wish I could drive it with power now because I feel really comfortable in the chassis, which the whole time I drove it in one season of Pro 2 with big power and it was set up, but it took me the whole year to learn how to drive it. And I didn't really feel comfortable in the car until 2 years after that. Even in street legal in the same chassis, I never felt good in it until maybe mid 2017.
Mm-hmm.
And now I feel like great in it. So I'm like, oh, I should add power.
Yeah.
But then tires and maintenance and everything goes up. So it's a difficult choice.
I can kind of relate to that. I'm glad you said that because it's something like in my head that I came from an E30. So I had an E30 for a long time, and I struggled with the setup and battled with different setup things. And then once I finally got it dialed in, and I finally got I think one of the first YSFAB kits for the E30 in the States, right?
Nice.
Yeah, it was nice, and it was cool to have that. And before YSFAB was even really an FD, it was just that whole debacle, whether it's going to be FD legal, right? That whole
with the whole strut tower
issue that they had, whatever. But going back to what you're saying is, I was so towards the end of the last couple of years of me driving that car, I felt like I put it wherever I wanted. I can go to a track and I can, no problem, link it and then dial myself in. I'm in the 350Z and I've had it for a little over a year, but I only do a handful of it, maybe 2-3 events a year. So maybe I have like 6 or 7 events on this car, and I have that feeling like I just don't feel comfortable in like I did my E30. Advice for me? Obviously driving. Is there anything else that you could give me advice on trying to get myself comfortable with the car?
For me, it was just I had to push myself out of my comfort zone in the car, which is difficult to do depending on where you're driving, and just seat time.
Yeah.
I have trouble pushing myself when it's not a competition setting.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what's nice about No Coast is they have a little fun comp there, and I end up pushing myself too hard in the little competition they have with Brandon Wicknick and Dwayne and stuff. They all drive it too.
I think it's a Corolla thing.
Yeah, it definitely is.
For sure.
Yeah.
It just takes time though.
Yeah.
And if you can't push yourself out of your comfort zone, then it's real hard to learn where the limits of the chassis are and where the corners are and stuff like that. Which on the SC, it took years for me to really feel comfortable in it, where I know where the car is going to go.
Those are 2 different total chassis. I mean, what's the key differences that you've noticed from going from a 8.6 to an SC? Because I've always wanted to buy an SC, but it just seems like a long boat.
Yeah, well, and it's really deceiving chassis because when you drive it, and this is the problem I had the first couple of years and in Pro 2, is I would be driving it and I'd feel great. I'm snapping transitions. I've got big angle. I'm killing it. And then everyone else is kind of like, yeah, kind of low angle. Like your transitions are real slow. And then I'd watch video and I'm like, man, it feels different in the car.
I said the same thing. I drifted a Volvo my first time, and I felt like I was drifting. And then they showed me a video. I'm like, I'm not even getting sideways.
Yeah, exactly.
That's funny.
It's weird, but learning how to pitch the weight and everything is a big part of the SC. Which in the Corolla, it's more just trying to hold on to the weight and not let it get too far away from you. So it's completely different driving styles. I love the Corolla. I need to get it back out for sure.
Now, even just wanted to say, like, even not being comfortable in the SC, you still won Texas Street Legal in that car. I mean, that's just a testament to your driving ability. Or was that something where you, while in competition, you were just like, I have to do it. I have to push myself. I have to really learn the car right now.
It was definitely that. I really, really wanted to win the prize. So I took street legal, and the guys that were driving street legal, a lot of them are really good drivers, but they were having a good time. And I was having a good time too, but in the competition, I wanted to win. I went in it with the mindset of, I want to win the prize and I want to go to Japan. So I was kind of cutthroat in the competition, more so than I normally would be. But I definitely took it serious and I pushed the car hard and it worked out, but I still never even really felt comfortable. I was pushing it definitely out of my comfort zone. And then the next year I drove a few of the street legal competitions, actually against Adam, LZ, and a couple other people, Mesker, and a few of those guys drove in it. And that's when I really started feeling comfortable in the car, was driving with those dudes.
Okay, I just wanted to mention we got actually a couple of questions from our viewers in the chat. Starting off with Rafael Vidal, who writes, Will, if you won the lottery, what color would you paint your 8.6, and would you get a coupe or a hatch? First question. Go ahead.
It'd have to be a hatch for a Corolla for sure. And I'm definitely painting it the same color green. So.
That's a quick response. All right. And from Pico de Gallo Racing writes, question for Will, Jay-Z or RB? And why do you Jay-Z more? LOL.
Definitely Jay-Z for me. Probably 1J. My 1J and my SC is a tank. It has lived through things that it should not have lived through. RBs I don't think RBs could take what my 1J is taking already.
Definitely not. Definitely not.
Yeah, that's what I went. I got an E46 that's at Jackson Performance. It's been there for almost 4 years now. Just because it's like become a staple of Jackson Performance.
I think every time
it's been through, I think 15 different employees. Every time a new employee starts there, I was like, I bet she'll quit before this car's done.
I think every time you bring it up, you should add a year.
Yeah, I think I should add a year. So it's 5 years now that my car has been there. It's almost done though. But I went for the 1J non VVTi.
Yeah, that car is embedded into the floor. Just letting you know.
Yeah,
yeah, it's just part of the shop now.
Yeah, it's part of the shop.
Yeah.
And it's sort of a off-topic question, but it's in the chat from Rafael Vidal, who writes, "What the hell happened to Noel's head?"
He got in a fight with a lawnmower.
Yeah, I decided that I wanted to look human again. So
this is the new clean cut Noel.
This is only gonna last like a month.
We got rid of Jack Black and brought Noel back.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
So here's a crazy question from me. Have you ever thought about putting the 4AG or any variation of a 4AG into an SC?
Well, funny story.
God. Good question.
Booyah!
It's even worse than that. So I daily drive a Coupe SR5. That's what I drive to work. Well, I drove it to Klutch Kickers too. That's my daily driver is a little Coupe SR5 Corolla. And it has the 4AC in it. It runs good. It gets almost 40 miles to the gallon. It's carbureted.
Sick. I highly approve. Carry on.
I basically floor it everywhere. Like, you're just flooring it all the time, and it still gets good mileage. But I've been slowly working on a barn find 20 valve that a friend of mine found on Craigslist, and I have carburetors for it. Anyway, I'm gonna eventually put that in the coupe, and then I have a bunch of SC chassis that are just like sitting next to my house that are rolling chassis with no motors. So I'm like, oh, just take the 4AC, put it into an SC.
Do it. Do it.
Like a $40 fuel pump and like 2 wires, and it would be running.
Yeah,
dude.
Slowest car that existed.
Yeah, it'll definitely be the slowest car.
I've had a couple SR5s. I know how slow that is already in the 8.6 chassis. I don't know if that's gonna be a funny time or a good time or a bad time, but I mean, good luck, man. That's all I can say.
Yeah, they go forever, but they just go really slowly.
Yeah,
Very
yeah,
slow.
yeah.
Yeah.
But hey, get you where you need to go.
For sure.
I had another question in a more serious matter. How did you tackle the doors on your SC?
Well, in FD, I had fiberglass doors on the car. So that's
Street
cheat
legal.
code.
Cheat code.
Yeah, but when I drove in street legal, you had to have windows, so I just ran full doors in street legal with the glass and everything.
Ooh.
Now what I have in the car is completely gutted doors with no side impact bars, and I still have the glass, but I made a system to basically I can put the window all the way up or halfway down or like all the way down, and I can take it out also. So I can take the glass out with just have basically cotter pins that hold it in place.
Wow,
with
nice.
the track.
That's cool.
Smart.
The door is completely gutted. The hinge is still super heavy. I didn't ever get around that. So,
That's crazy. So you just mentioned that you drive to Klutch Kickers with the Corolla, and you've been doing this for every round so far?
no, I only drove the Corolla to one round last year. So last year I drove my wife's car, I drove my van to one round, and I drove the Corolla to one. I guess I drove hers to the other three or whatever. And I drove the van and the Corolla once. And then this year I've been renting cars.
Okay.
Cheating.
Yeah, I noticed you. Go
Ben
ahead,
rents a car.
Well, yeah, I mean, it works out, I guess, right? I mean, with all the stuff that we gotta carry around.
That
But
is true.
you need a vehicle that you're not gonna care about if you're gonna do like sight laps to make sure that the track is up to par, especially when it's been flooded several times with like crazy weather conditions.
Yep.
So, I mean, Tim, you wanted to ask him, like how he got started with Klutch Kickers, right?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was going to go to next.
that's an
So let's
interesting question.
you mentioned we talked about your previous experience and whatnot. We talked about how you were involved in other drift events, and now 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, how did that conversation come about? Did they reach out to you? Is this just kind of walk us through the beginnings of you and Klutch Kickers?
Yeah, so I drove EYB was one of my favorite events to drive. So I went to it almost every year. And the Klutch Kickers guys were at EYB the year before the series started. So we drove with them. I didn't really meet them there, but they were there. And then after the event, they reached out to me and they asked me if I wanted to be part of this series that they were trying to do. And so I didn't really know the Castleberry specifically. So I was kind of a little bit weary. I was like, yeah, I don't know, but it sounded really interesting. And so we did a conference call and I talked to Zach a bunch, like in emails and text messages. And I liked what they had to say. And so I jumped on board. They told me what they were doing and they seemed real serious. So their level of seriousness is what got me on board, basically. They didn't seem, a lot of people want to run events, and I've talked to a lot of people that are, we're going to do an event, there's going to be a comp, but they're just a little too on the fence about details and how much money they're willing to spend. And the Klutch Kickers was just, they were all in from the start, basically. And that convinced me, like, they're serious.
So after we would say after like your first event, you were like, okay, these guys are serious, or you think even before then they were so far organized and just seemed like they knew what they wanted, or did it take a couple events before you're like, okay, this is really going to be something?
Well, even before I went to Florida for round one last year, I thought that they were serious just from everything they had said and the way they projected everything and all the details that they had looked into and who they also had been talking to judge. I was just I knew they were serious, but really, you're still a little weary when you're
Right.
meeting new people. So I went to round one, and round one really like sealed it for me because there was issues with the track. And on turn one, before you get to the outer zone, like part of the track had gotten kind of eaten away by a rainstorm or whatever. Like the water carved out the backside of the asphalt. And so me and Pat and Greg, we were real worried about it. We were looking at it. We're like, man, this is not good. And Mike, Castleberry, immediately went and rented a skid steer and brought it out to the track and immediately started fixing the track, and that sealed it for me because most of the organizers I'd worked with before would never. They would try to figure out a way to fix that without spending money, whereas he just was like, "Oh, what does it cost to rent a skid steer? Like, go get the skid steer right now and let's get it fixed like 100% before we start the event."
Wow.
So kind of seeing that, I was like, man, they're real serious.
Yeah. I know. I have to say, at least for myself, when we first saw Klutch Kickers or heard about the $100,000 drift series when the series was starting up the first season, we were like, okay, yeah, we'll see how it goes after the first event when people aren't getting paid and have to make it to right, because that's what we've seen. We didn't have any firsthand experience with anybody there because we've been stuck down in the bottomless pit of South Florida for most of our lives. So a lot of the people up there, we didn't know some of the names and everything. So I was definitely skeptical because, like we were talking prior to when we started, that we've seen a lot of events that come out and have these big boasts, and we're going to be the next FD, or we're going to be the next D1, and all these, we have these sponsors here, and they blow it up, and they have almost like this media presence that is really just like it's just empty, right? It's all nice on the surface, but then once the event starts going, you see it start to fall apart, and you see like friendships getting broken, you see bridges getting burned, and you're like, so when I saw Klutch Kickers, I was thinking, oh man, this is going to be another one of those, I don't want to name events, but KMS or some other events out there. I said okay, I'm sorry, but you know what I mean. It's not going to be. It's going to be another one of these. And then after I think the second one, we're like, wow, okay, this might be something. And the third one come around, we're like, wow, this is. You could see the change and the quick growth, and then you start hearing things like the Castleberries, their goal, and actually all the staff, all you guys, just had this passion for running an event the way it should be and running it in a way that doesn't exclude the drivers, right? Because there are events out there that, we're going to run it this way, and the drivers will have their voice, but their voice is never really being heard. So you guys make it a point, because I think a lot of it has to do with this, just about most of the staff are drivers, so you guys can relate to the drivers, and a lot of the drivers know you, a lot of the drivers trust you. But the progression from round one last year to round one this year is like, people can hate on it on the live stream all they want and talk trash about whatever, because it's like, we'll just, like, I don't know if they think that you could just do the whole thing with a phone camera and live stream, it's going to come out perfect. I don't think they really realize what goes into it. So, but to see every round, even now, every round, there's a focus on, okay, it went well, but how can we improve, right? So exactly. What is your, I want to say your part in that, or how do they come to you? Do they come to you and say, hey, Will, things went good? Do they ask you for feedback constantly?
Definitely. They're always asking for feedback, and we're always trying to just improve on little things at each round, like what went wrong at this last event that we can improve on, and just slowly getting better. I mean, and that's the difference between them and most of the series that just disappear, is they didn't go into it with the mindset of, I feel like a lot of series go in and they have grand ideas about how much money they're going to make immediately, like profit for themselves. Whereas Klutch Kickers, I think, knew that it was going to cost a certain amount of money, and they were going to take losses to a certain point no matter what they did. So they just didn't worry about that at all, and just focused on making the events good and trying to make sure everything was scratched off the list. At each round, we all talk, we have conference calls, things like that, and try to figure out what we can do at the next round to make it just a little bit better. Like, hey, this went bad at round 2, we need to fix this for round 3. And it's been like that the whole time. So just scratching one thing off the list at a time, making it just a little bit better.
Yeah. So from the beginning, were you set to be a judge, or did that happen just like maybe right before the first event?
They reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to judge. That's how our conversation started. Because I judged a lot of Lone Star. Even when I drove in Street Legal, I still judged the Pro-Am competition. So they wanted me to do that, and they didn't. I think I was the first one that they officially like reached out to, and then they reached out to Pat and Greg after. We kind of threw some names out. They were asking me who they could talk to and who would be a good candidate for it, and I gave them my feedback, and so it kind of went from there. Yeah. But they definitely wanted me to be a judge right from the start.
Yeah. And another thing I want to point to anybody that's watching and also on the live stream, I really tried to make it a point to educate the people. The fact that you guys, the three of you guys, have so much experience, that you're all pro drivers, right? You've lived it. You've seen every aspect of it. And I think another aspect of what you guys bring, the three of you guys bring, and as well as Pat last year, season 1 that you guys also brought, is you guys, the spectators, the people watching live stream may not see it, but we see the respect the drivers have for you guys, right? There is a lot of respect for you guys. So what you may hear in the chat and all these other things is the drivers, for the most part, from what I've seen, the calls, sometimes they don't agree, but for the most part, you guys seem to be able to carry that and that experience in a way that is, because basically you're judging people, right? So you're judging somebody's pride and joy, their runs. So there's that pride factor that people can get hurt. But when you're being told, okay, you're doing this wrong and this is why you're doing wrong, but you're being told from somebody of experience, it's more of a mentoring, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
How has that been for you? Because you guys, I mean, you're judging, I don't know, maybe the other events you judge some more experienced drivers, but it seems like this field of drivers that Klutch Kicker is bringing is it's pretty serious, right? So to be able to judge them, how does that feel?
Oh, it's super serious. The drivers at Klutch Kickers are way more serious than anybody I've judged before. The competition is way more serious as well. It's difficult. And a lot of the guys, well, not a lot of them, most of them understand the calls before they happen. And then some people are upset. And usually after the event, I can break it down and they're like, oh, okay, you're right. I wasn't thinking about it like that. Or they can see the mistakes they made and try to improve. And I think a lot of them trust us. Some of them don't. You're never going to make everybody happy, but it's a difficult job, especially at the level, like around 3, everybody's getting so good at driving the track we have. It's really difficult it feels nitpicky at times because everybody's driving so well that you're looking at little tiny things. And so then they're upset and it's like, well, you had this tiny mistake and the other guy didn't have the same tiny mistake. So it's, okay. I don't know.
Now you're kind of bringing that up. Before we get into, I think there's a couple runs we want to watch. But before we get into some of the runs from the round 3 of season 2 Klutch Kickers, what would you think would benefit this series the most to make it more diverse, or changing layouts, or what would you think would really help the series to evolve to the next step?
I think changing the layout would help a lot. The thing that would help the most, which is the hardest to do, would be changing the location of the track, which is almost impossible. But I feel like if the track was in a place where they could get a good amount of spectators to it, it would be perfect. Where it's at, it's just it's a hard pull, I feel like, to get spectators to the track. Where watching it live, it's extremely entertaining.
Yeah.
Battles are really close. There's lots of things to watch, but it's out there on an island.
Yeah.
You know,
I tell everybody, is like, watching it on live stream and then going there in person is two total different things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a pro level event. Like, it's serious. It's good competition.
Yeah, but even just the track alone, what you see on a live stream, it looks dead flat. You don't. We're not talking crazy amounts of elevation change, but it's there, right? And it does make a difference.
Makes it dynamic.
Right? Exactly. So
yeah, coming down from Outer Zone 2, going into Outer Zone 3, you could see it's a little bit of a drop, but cars are picking up speed, especially some of these really fast cars, and you can see they got to put on the clamps to get it to stop. So, but it's definitely. I also wanted to touch on the fact that the level of driving is getting so high, and
we saw a 5-month driver do super well.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
which was crazy.
Yeah, that was Connor O'Sullivan that was doing really amazing. Now, the thing is, as a judge, because I think we all have experience judging like smaller, lower level events, and it's already like...
It's pretty easy. That guy spun, this guy didn't.
Yeah, it's still a thankless job. But when it comes to splitting hairs like that, where it's just almost nothing that makes a difference, how hard is it, and how do you take it when a driver comes up to you and be like, I don't think it went this way? Like, what are you going through?
I mean, it's real hard. It's one of the things I struggle with the most is I have a lot of respect for the people that drive the event. So when they're upset that they lost, I really want to hear what they're saying and really want to convey to them why we made the choices we made. It's really difficult. It's one of the hardest things for me judging is that I take it hard when people are real upset. So I probably try to make them happy too much or whatever, or explain it too much. Some people are real rude. Not the majority of people are not, but some are. But you're never going to make everybody happy, but it's definitely a tricky area. So I just try to explain it to the best of my ability. And some people can look at it constructively and see what we're talking about, where their mistakes were made, and some can't. They just can't see it.
Yeah, I think I got some good advice for you on this one. So the next time somebody comes up and they're kind of upset, you just pass them over to Officer Dan.
That is an excellent plan.
Yeah, I think that's just...
Kind of.
They're going to be more upset after they talk to Dan.
But hey, they'll be mad at Officer Dan, and you could just kind of be behind Officer Dan saying,
Well, talking about Officer Dan, I asked this question to Mr. Ramsey, and I'm going to pass this on to you, sir. I would like your opinion on this.
Oh, jeez.
Yes.
I know what you're talking about.
When Mr. Dan talks about him, he wants to be excited. He wants his pants or shorts to get tight. Does it get uncomfortable when that happens? And if so, how do you deal with it?
I mean, I feel like if he's excited, I'm excited.
Feed each other. It's like,
oh boy.
Wow.
So are we talking some tandem action going on over here at the judge's booth?
You know,
you guys are sword
things
fighting
happen
up there?
They stay up there, but
They're playing Star Wars.
yeah.
I want to know who's the Sith Lord. That's got to be Dan.
Yeah.
Well, when we see an exciting run, we just know to like, all right, leave the judges stand alone. Let them.
That's why that camera wasn't working.
Yeah, that's why the camera was.
that
Don't
makes
pan
sense.
the camera up there.
Don't look that way.
I really honestly have to wonder if you have drivers out there that are questioning, like, are trying to measure, like, how tight his shorts were, because he was wearing shorts.
So you make the spotters like, so I'm in the car, right, and you're my spotter.
Yeah.
I'm in the car. I'm like, Ben, were his pants tight? And you're gonna be like, hold on one second.
No, I'm
Are there any
talking,
wrinkles?
I'm talking about in the driver's meeting. They're looking at Dan and they're measuring to see like how tight is he?
Yeah, TP, like TP tight, or
is he wearing like loose and baggy, or like tight and firm?
Yeah,
and then so that way they know exactly how much work they have to do to gain those style points.
Yeah, Dan's midsection is becoming somewhat of a hot topic.
Well,
drivers should take note. They should be looking at that, but I don't think
oh, there you go. That's a tip from the judges to the drivers. All right, so do you want to go ahead? Do you have any of the runs queued up at all?
I'm trying. I thought I had that one run that you guys wanted to talk about, but unfortunately, I guess for some reason it wasn't there. But
do you have any run hooked up?
I mean, I could skip forward. Which one?
It was the second. It was technically the second battle of the top 64.
Was Fellow versus Willie Coupe Espinosa.
Yes.
King's Performance versus King's Performance. So I'll just kind
of... Oh, that's a little loud. My apologies. Yeah. Carry on. Let me see if I can find it right fast.
Okay, so basically I'll set the stage. Fellow and Bavaro. And Bavaro. I think he corrected me a couple times. I got to catch up with him in the pits, but I've known Fellow for a while. Fellow is...
And you still can't pronounce his name right.
Yeah, well, it's that accent, you know. But Fellow has been... Honestly, when I was early in drifting, like, Fellow was like somebody I looked up to. Like, I was like, God, the guy rips. Like, he was so exciting, and he was always just so cool. Like, Fellow was just, like, the nicest guy. And like, you go up to him anytime, even if he's working at the car, and he would just like, yeah, man, and he'd talk to you and shake your hand. So I've always had a heart for Fellow. And then there was a patch of times where I didn't see him for a long time. We saw each other. It was like a big hug, reunion kind of thing. But Fellow, just somebody I've always looked up to. Willie was, he came down to Miami from Orlando one time. And this was right after I got my wife's fab, and we're doing a county line event. And I was always throwing a lot of angle, right? Because it was still kind of new. The angle kits were new then. And I originally, when I fitted the Wise Fab kit, I had 16 by 8-inch wheels in the front. And I decided I want to go to 17-inch wheels on a E30, which is kind of big. But I just thought it looked cooler. Well, I didn't really recheck my clearances, right? So, like I should have. So, going in, fine. Coming out, I just threw a full lock. Well, the inside of the wheel landed right up against a brake line bracket. And there was a ribbon of aluminum that was like 3 feet long. So when I coming out, of course, I was the first car in a 3-car tandem. I came out, I threw it a lot of angle, and I just totally braked the front, and I spun. The guy behind me, he went around. Willie was driving past. He was riding shotgun with me, and then the third guy in the chain, Mr. John. Jonathan Bowerman.
Bowerman,
he decided to just like bam right in the front, just plow me right in the front, and Willie was there with me through that. So I have love for both of those guys, and that's kind of the point of my story. So I don't
ready to cue that clip, Ben?
Yeah, you ready to cue that clip? I gave you plenty of time.
Yeah, I mean it's there. Let me just switch to it. I'm just trying to figure out a way for Mr. Parsons to be able to watch it as well. But
he's got to be able to watch it. He's got to tell us about what's going on.
Okay. Well, let me see. Let me switch over to that. Hit play, and then
share your
maybe.
screen.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm gonna do. Relax. I think this is it here. Let's share that. Can you see what I'm seeing?
I can see it, yes.
Okay, so you want to walk us through what's happening here?
So it's difficult to see it from this camera angle. Obviously, they just wrecked. But I watched this before he went on the podcast. So Fellow, from the overhead view, when he goes into the touch and go, if you look at where the front of his car is pointed, he basically is spun out. Like when he transitions, he snaps the car to crazy angle. And if you look at where the front of his car is headed, like he wasn't going to be able to make the transition. Like he had too much angle in the touch and go.
Okay, I see.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and you can also tell by the speed of his car, like he just cooked it too hard into the touch and go.
Mm-hmm.
Willie was not on a good line following him, but I think that they were going to make contact like no matter what, even if he followed him into the touch and go.
Okay.
But basically, the front of Fellow's car is pointed at the dirt, like with pretty significant angle and slowing down.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it was kind of difficult to call, and we gave fault to Fellow for that.
And that's a hard area to ascertain whose fault it was, because it's always a place where the follow driver, if they get too close, they can hit the lead driver, because it's two transitions, one after the other. It happens very quickly. So I mean, to come up with that conclusion, I mean, obviously you guys have the experience and the know-how of how that's gonna happen. So that was actually a good explanation of what happened there. I really appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that is good.
Oh, it kind of. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, seeing it live, also the slowdown's a little harder to see in the video, but we really want the cars to slow down before they go into the touch and go, and then accelerate out of the touch and go. And seeing that run live, he had so much angle right at the touch and go, he was not accelerating as quickly as we would want to see. And then also the attitude of his car, like I just don't think he was going to be able to make it smoothly from the touch and go to outer zone 2. Like he hucked it too hard.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I know a lot of, when we were on the live stream, I tried to point out, and I don't know how accurate or how you, whether you agree or disagree with this, but I see certain drivers attacking at that touch and go, and I just don't feel like that's the right area to attack. Now, some guys pull it off. I think Ben Hobson pulled it off once.
Yeah.
I think a couple
screwed him
drivers
up once.
Huh?
Screwed him up once.
It did screw him up once,
Yeah.
but when they do pull that off, where they attack there,
incredible.
and then they make that transition and they're right on the door versus making the transition and then surging forward. But what is your opinion as far as drivers attacking? You think that's somewhere that they should try to hold off, or what do you think?
It depends on the driver. Some of the guys are really good at attacking through there, and it looks amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But where we end up dinging a lot of drivers is they get a little too overzealous and they transition too quickly. The drivers that are really good can attack and be on the lead car's line, which looks amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So if they just hold off the transition a little bit longer so that they're still in the pocket on the lead driver, like Nate Hamilton was doing it amazing before his car had trouble, and a couple other drivers are always really good at really hanging it out. Even in the follow position, they're able to stay in the pocket. I think too many of the drivers are trying too hard. They're trying too hard to attack, and they end up not making it to the touch and go in the follow position. So they just shortcut that turn, and it caused contact. Like with Ben Hobson, he shortcutted and ran right into Troy Manners. He hit him in the door, and he might have had an issue actually, but there was a couple other with Alec.
Alec and Nate.
Mm-hmm.
Nate went super deep into the touch and go, and Alec just got excited and transitioned too early, and he trapped himself to where there was no option except for a crash.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like if you're in the door at the touch and go, you really can be aggressive going into the outer zone 2, and it looks great. So
yeah, I know another one. I don't think it was so controversial, but was the Taylor Hole versus Taylor Ray.
Oh, you want to skip to that? Okay.
I mean, unless there's another one you have queued up.
That was a highly debated one.
yes. But let me see if we can warm up to it. Do you have anything you want to warm up to before we get to that one?
Well, actually, I did have a question in regards to the touch and go, and that is that was it always that with both of the cones get knocked down, they get a 0, or is it something that was introduced for this round?
No, you can knock the cones down and not get a 0, but if if we can clearly see that the cone hit is in the middle of your rear wheel forward on the car, then it's a 0. So like if you hit it with your back bumper, it's not a 0. It's just, you made a mistake, you went too deep, but you're still good. If you hit it with the wheel or, your driver's side door, if you're driving left-hand drive, that's going to be a 0. So that's like real deep, like you're way off the track at that point. But if you're just hitting it with the back bumper, it's a mistake. We don't want you to hit them, but it's not a 0.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're still good.
But I've seen quite a few times where you guys, the runs were so hard fought that even though they didn't hit it with the wheel, it almost seemed like it came to a deciding factor because that's really the only mistake you could pull judge.
Well, definitely. If one guy is on the zones and doesn't hit he doesn't go too deep in the touch and go, that's obviously going to be better than hitting them.
Yeah.
So some people get excited and they do the transition and they end up hitting them, but it's like an imaginary wall, which is debatable. The reason why we did the wheel hit with the cone is it's debatable with the chassis how far you could put it into a wall. We don't have a wall there, but if it's in the middle of your wheel, you're definitely not making it.
Right.
If it's your trunk or your back bumper, you might be able to pull it out. And that's kind of was the thought process last year with that.
Just need to put some K-rails there.
Hey, relax, okay?
Just cement poles.
Now, as far as as far as the touch and go goes, I mean, this is just a reminder for the drivers. The touch and go, those 2 cones, is not meant to be filled out. Is that correct? It's just get in and get out.
Yep.
Okay. One thing I will notice is that a lot of drivers, and I did drive the track once, and it is hard to ride that outer zone number 1 all the way through. I'd probably say a good 80% of the field they weren't getting to the far outside of outer zone number 1 until maybe already 60 or 70% into the zone. How did that? Did you guys? How much did that weigh into the judging? Because it seemed like everybody's doing it, and then a few guys were hitting it.
Like the people that were hitting it were heavily rewarded for it. I mean, it's pretty long zone, so it's very difficult to ride the entire thing. I think the best drivers are hitting maybe 85% of it, I would say.
Yeah.
And they're the ones that initiate, and they're able to stay like mid to kind of outer track as they're going up the hill. And they're really able to get on throttle early, and it brings them into that zone pretty quickly compared to everybody else. A lot of drivers that ride the inside of the track, they get to the zone, but at the very end.
Right.
And it's pretty clear to see that. So, they get docked for it for sure.
What are your thoughts on the changes to the start?
So the start, we tried a thing. Separating the lanes helped. It fixed all the problems.
Yeah.
We were going to do a hard 0 and stuff, and it was going to be too hard. Like, I think it was too hard for the drivers to guesstimate where they're at on the lead car, because basically it was going to be a 0 if the follow car was like beyond the rear wheel or something of the lead car. And watching it in practice, it was very difficult to, you could tell the drivers were struggling with deciding where they could be. And so we just didn't want that to be a factor where they slam on the brakes because they think they're going to get a 0 on the straightaway. But the whole purpose of separating the lanes was to keep people from cutting across the track too early. So now it's like kind of a very definitive area where the lead car can come across and the follow car should be out of their way. So if they come across and the follow car is there, we should be able to see it, and it should be pretty obvious that they're impeding at that point.
Yeah, I didn't see any issues with that this time at all.
No, but it definitely
perfectly smooth.
It definitely changes some of the strategies, especially for the lead driver, how they're gonna like adjust the manji if they're gonna do that, or even the following car, how they're gonna follow up behind the driver, because all of a sudden that driver in front can just go right in front of them as soon as they pass that last cone. And I've seen some in-car video and it looks pretty terrifying, like how some drivers just cut right in front of you just so they can feint. So I think that does play a little bit in strategy, and I think if that continues on to round 4, then we're gonna start seeing drivers adapting to that more. So I don't know what we're gonna see in the future.
Were you happy with the changes that were made in regards to protests?
Yes, I was very happy with the changes to the protest.
Yeah, it went smoother this time for sure.
Yeah.
Well, we only had one protest, so that's pretty insane. I think out of all of last year and all the rounds this year, we've always had like 3 or 4 at a minimum. So having just one is crazy. But yeah, the rules, I don't know if the rules really played into it or just the calls were clear cut enough to where people didn't want to protest, but not being able to ask about it first and just having to pay the money, I think that made a big difference. And having to talk to Webb. So
I think another thing about it is, and I think you touched on it, is that as the rounds progress, I think the drivers start to get a better sense of what the judges are looking for. So once that happens, they have less of a reason to protest, because case in point, going back to Dan and his tight pants, when he introduced that notion to the drivers, I recall like there was a bunch of them that were confused. And I was like, well, what's the confusion? Like it's pretty clear like what he's trying to say. But many people were confused. And I think now at this point, I mean, I would assume that people know, like, okay, well, now this is what Dan wants. This is what Will wants, and this is what Dwayne wants. So there should be little debate in regards to the judging criteria.
Nice.
Exactly. I think people are figuring it out, and you can tell the drivers that really pay attention because they really make an effort to do the things that we ask them to do, and that you can see it. And the people that don't listen, you can tell, because they're usually the ones that are the most upset, and they obviously didn't listen to what we said because they didn't do anything that we told them to do. So I think it's more people are finally listening, because the track is very deceiving in how technical it is. It's very small. It's easy to link, but it's extremely technical for what we're asking the drivers to do. And I think a lot of the drivers are finally getting that, like, oh, it's extremely technical, so I really need to pay attention, in the slow parts of the track and things that at speed are very hard to make the car do comfortably. They're forcing the car to do it, and it's looking great for us as judges and spectators and everything. But they're finally, like, it's clicking, I feel, more so than it was last year in the first 2 rounds this year.
Yeah. I mean, what you guys add to that track, because like you said, it's pretty easy to drive it just to link it in Fun Day. But where you're asking the drivers to put their car, you could see just by the qualifying scores, right, that there's only a handful of guys that can really give you guys what you want. And even those guys aren't getting 99, or 100 point or 98 point qualifying runs, right?
Yeah, it's a difficult setup for sure. And you really have to focus on forcing the car to go where we want it to go, not where it goes naturally. And that's what's kind of difficult, is changing the car from, just floating where it wants to go and transitioning where it wants to go, to really forcing it to go to the zones and the clips.
And not only that, the line that you guys are asking the lead driver to run is really helping the chase driver quite a bit. So that lead car puts down a good run. It's like he knows, okay, I'm in this. I'm everywhere I need to be. But if the guy behind me is worth his salt, he's gonna put down an amazing chase run. So that adds pressure to that lead driver. I'm sure, right?
Yeah,
Exactly.
So something that when you're talking about like telling the drivers what to do and what not to do and whatnot, is there a situation like, of course, as judges you bring out rules and you tell how, like this is what we want to see, but is there something that you saw in this past round or in previous rounds where you're like, we didn't think that would happen and we didn't really account for it, so now we have to like kind of adjust something for the next round?
Trying to think of something specific. Really, this year there hasn't been much of that. Things that we noticed that we didn't account for.
Wheels falling off, maybe.
Haven't seen that yet.
Well, not a clutch kicker.
Not a
Hopefully
clutch
not.
kicker.
Yeah. The Wicknick Taylor Hole call, that was something that is we haven't really talked about things like that are just extremely hard to call, where it's, in my opinion, it's impossible to tell what would have happened had they not touched or whatever. But really, we've accounted for most things.
Oh, that's right.
Taylor Ray.
Taylor Ray.
Or did I say Taylor Hole?
Yeah,
I meant
yeah.
Taylor Ray.
Oh, Tim makes the same mistake.
I do that all the time.
Oh yeah.
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 One of the Taylors.
Yeah, exactly. One of the Taylors. Yeah, but that worked out pretty well because the drivers were both willing to say, hey, listen, I think it was my fault. I think it was my fault. So that, I'm sure, made your job easier, correct?
Yeah, what was your reaction to that?
Well, it was kind of it's weird because it was we watched it live and we weren't really sure what happened, and then reviewed it, a bunch of times on the live stream and from the overhead drone. And it was extremely hard to tell how hard the contact was. And like Brandon was running an amazing lead lap and was right on the edge of outer zone 3. So it was very hard to tell where his car was going to go. And so we asked, track staff to go look. We said, hey, don't talk to them, but just go look at Brandon's car and see, if there's marks or dent or something. So we were on the phone and he said, yeah, there's definitely a black mark, small dent, like not crazy, but they definitely made contact. And so we just asked him, we're like, oh, well, what's the temperature down there? Like, what are those guys saying? Like, what are they kind of feeling? So he just sort of eavesdropped on them and basically relayed to us that neither one really knew what happened. They weren't sure if the bump caused the spin or if the spin was going to happen anyway. And we watched a bunch of times, and it's a thing where that decided the run. If Brandon hadn't spun, it would have been real easy to make the call, but because he spun, it's like that became the whole decision behind that battle. And we just all three felt that it was unfair to make a driver lose when we couldn't really tell, had he not hit him, would he have spun? I have no idea. They definitely hit. It's extremely hard to tell. Last year we had the Taylor Hole and Taylor Ray, actually. Taylor Ray hit Taylor Hole in the same spot.
Yeah.
And we made the call that it was Taylor Ray's fault. And when we reviewed it in slow motion, the contact looked way harder than it did in person. I don't know if y'all have seen that, but I've watched the drone footage from the drone that was chasing them, and it's like super high definition slow motion. And it looks a lot different than watching it live or even in the live stream drone feed.
Oh.
So we just couldn't make the call. Like it was too hard to call based on that and make one of those drivers go home. So we just, since both of them didn't really know who was at fault or what happened, we just decided it'd be better to send them one more time and see what happened.
But Ben, you don't by any chance have that run?
Yeah, I'm actually.
Can you play it from the start though instead of just at the very end?
Oh, from the start of the run?
Yeah, from the start of the run, so not just that final section. Get a view from the
Okay.
from the start and watch the whole run. So that way people, if they haven't seen it, they can see it.
Now, at that point, would you just end up calling that a shared fault?
One more time.
Basically, yes.
Okay.
Yep. Basically, it was so hard to tell.
Yeah, you should be able to see it, right?
Yeah, I see it. Yep. So Taylor's doing an amazing job following him, and they bump. It's like right there, they bump. And then right after that, the dirt drop happens. So that bump may have spun him. It may not have, but it's actually right there they touch. Enough to leave a pretty good mark on Brandon's car, but not crazy. So we didn't want to make Taylor lose for being aggressive, and we didn't want to make Brandon lose for spinning, on his own.
I think it was a good call.
Yeah.
Both of the drivers seemed super happy with it. I mean, anytime you get a one more time call, you should be able to win the battle if you're good enough. So
Absolutely. I mean, Taylor Ray had quite a few one more time battles. That little Miata, little Miata went to work. That car was working all night.
Yeah, definitely made up for his round one early exit there. But 2 events in a row where the Miatas are winning. Are you guys biased towards Miatas?
That's funny.
Well, I don't know. After that battle with Brandon, I felt like Taylor Ray was just locked in. So that one more time, he just looked locked in. And then after that, I felt like he was unbeatable. He just seemed glued to everybody he was following, and he was just laying down great lead laps. The round before, the Miatas work well on this track. They definitely can throw down. And I think the narrowness of the track, how narrow it is and everything, plays to their size. I'm real curious what a Corolla would do. But
I'm curious too. I'm always curious.
Have we seen a Corolla out there yet?
No, we haven't seen one. They're collector's items now. It's just so hard to get them out there.
They're too expensive to drive.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. So I don't know if you want to move on to Taylor Ray versus Taylor Hall.
Yeah, I got that.
Can you play the whole run now?
Oh yeah.
Okay, perfect.
I got it up here. Can you guys see it somehow or no?
No.
We're not able to see it.
But maybe like that. Is that what you get a sense?
I got an idea.
No, it's not gonna work. That's not.
No, it's a couple minutes delayed, everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a little delayed.
Yeah, relax. Okay, all right.
I can kind of see it.
Well,
he's talking about the live stream.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
exactly.
try.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead and try. We're gonna go play it like
you're
that.
You're blocking the side of the screen, anyways, right?
Well, yeah. If you want, you can get up. Oh, there you go.
Actually, it's right there. I can see it just fine.
Yeah, there you go. So it was, I guess, a bit of a false start there, right?
Yeah, Taylor Hall jumped the light, and I guess from what we heard from the judging tower is he knew he jumped the light, so he just immediately stopped because he saw Zach's reaction or something. And so just a restart, no big deal. And I like how Taylor Ray is starting far back. That's awesome.
Yeah, because he didn't want Hall to get away from him.
Right. And so it's hard if you slow it down right there. So
hang on.
I haven't actually got a chance to talk to Taylor Hall about this, but he's pretty disappointed that he lost, to say the least. But so he did a great job of getting into outer zone 1. But if you watch his front wheels before he runs over the front clipping point cone, he basically turns the wheel almost straight.
I see that.
And then he runs over the cone like pretty bad. Like that was, in our opinion, that was a huge mistake. He basically did a rolling burnout to not go just completely off track. So his car's attitude, he has a certain amount of angle and he's on throttle, and then his car changes direction and it almost goes straight across the front clipping point cone.
Yep.
So that was a pretty sizable mistake for him, in our opinion. And Taylor Ray is just doing an amazing job following him. Like, they're glued together, basically, following his line and everything.
And then you speeded it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like toy
And
cars.
then on Taylor Ray's lead, I believe he doesn't fill outer zone 1 all the way, but he's pretty spot on other than that.
Well, we could get another angle from here on the replay. But
Right. So
go
from the
ahead.
drone footage, you see the angle change and then almost straight lines over the inner clip. Yeah, if you
Oh,
back
yeah.
it up
Oh,
to that
yeah.
again, that would be awesome.
This is only 5 seconds behind. You see?
Oh, relax. Okay, here, hang on. Let me just slow that part down so that way everybody can dissect it.
Yep.
There we go.
Yeah.
So right here, his front wheels are straight, essentially.
Oh.
He hits the cone and then does the transition. And because of that, he doesn't do a good job filling the touch and go. He's almost inside apexing the dirt there. But that straight line is pretty. I think if his car had made like 10 less horsepower, he would have been completely obviously straight. But he was able to just stand on it, and he probably had 1 degree of angle, but not much at all.
Yeah.
Let me ask you something. How quickly do you guys are able to pick up on that? Is it that obvious, or is it something that like you stop, slow down, pause, play, pause, or
You
go ahead?
can definitely, watching it live, you can see it. You can see the bobble, and it's hard to tell exactly what happened with Taylor Hull's car, especially because he has black wheels in the front. It's hard to tell what he's doing exactly. It's also super loud and makes a ton of smoke. So that run, we definitely replayed it a bunch. You can see the bobble, but it's hard to tell exactly why the bobble happened. And then replaying it, I think he just didn't stay out long enough, or maybe his car is just too gripped up, but he definitely straight lined from outer zone 1 to the inner clip.
Yeah, I think this is when Taylor Hull called a 5-minute timeout, I believe.
Yeah, I think his car was overheating, maybe.
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, but I mean, great job to Taylor Ray to follow him through that.
Indeed.
That's not easy to make those adjustments so quickly.
So here you got Taylor Ray doesn't get to the outer zone 1 till the very end. He's on the inner clip, on the touch and go. Did a very good job in outer zone number 2. And Taylor Hull is sticking with him good. It's just a pretty clean run. He's good on outer zone 3. They might have touched there barely.
Yeah, it looked like it.
Mm-hmm.
Hang on, let me slow that part down a bit. I'm curious now.
Yeah, I remember that part where I was like, "Oh, was there contact?"
Yeah, but watching it, like we were saying before, you really gotta split hairs here because Taylor Hull, you see that loss of angle and how he has that power, like Will was saying, to just standing burnout right through it, right?
Right.
And had he not had that much horsepower, it would have been way more evident. So then Taylor Ray just put down a great run, and looks like right about there he hits.
Yeah, right as they cross the line, and boom. You can see that.
So, yeah, Taylor Ray definitely missed outer zone number 1, but in our opinion, he got to it at the very end. He didn't fill the whole zone, so that obviously is a mistake. But it's not the same mistake as coming up short and just plowing the inner clip cone completely, because you have to go straight to not drive off the track on the inside.
Right.
Like if Taylor Hull had maintained his angle, he would have been in the grass a lot. Like both his front wheels would have been in the grass.
Right.
Interesting. Well, there you have it.
Yeah.
That's a really good breakdown. Yeah. I did not pick up on that before.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
I didn't either.
That was an eye-opening and enlightening experience. I will tell you that.
Hallelujah,
Yeah,
my life's
all
been
I-
changed.
all I remember from that run was that Taylor Hall hit the cone, but when you dissect it like that, showing the reduction of angle going through there, it just makes so much sense why you made that call. It's crazy.
I haven't got a chance to. He reached out to me, and I haven't got a chance to talk to him yet. But really, I mean, in that video, you can see his front wheels change direction a significant amount. Like he turns them to straight and then back to angle, which that's not something he was doing normally.
Right.
So he definitely messed up. He just got lost or something. I'm not sure. Too gripped up.
Right. Yeah, because, well, like you said, at this level, especially at this track, with these drivers driving it repeatedly in the same layout, it's just going to get more and more challenging for you guys. It really is.
Definitely, because we're already seeing some exciting battles on top 32. Usually it's like on top 16 further down the like towards the finals, but top 32, we're already seeing some crazy battles.
Yeah, it was heated all the way from top 32 all the way down.
Yeah, it was crazy.
But in some respects, this kind of takes me back to when we were judging events, and one of the things that we will tell people is treat the cone as if it's a wall.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine if that was a wall, how Taylor Hall's car would have reacted to that.
It would have ended his run. It would definitely have ended his run.
You can't do that at Long Beach, that's for sure.
It would have been very bad. I don't think his car would have survived.
Right.
Oh boy. Go ahead. No.
Oh no, I was gonna say, talking about like how the drivers have been driving the track over and over, and they should know better now. We also got to remember it's the level of competition, especially going on through the night, is so high that even the best drivers will make mistakes because they are pushing. So I mean, it's something to remember that all these guys there are really good drivers. That when they make it to top 16, top 8, you're talking about like some of the best drivers in the country just going out at it. So I mean, it's just something to remember, like, oh, he made this mistake. It's like he's under pressure. He's a lot, so I think it's something to as a spectator to remember.
Yeah.
Definitely. Like it's not like his mistake is not gigantic, but it just is a lot worse than anything that Taylor Ray did. So it's not like he didn't spin out, he didn't fly off the track, but they're all definitely killing it, and everybody is at the end, especially in the final 4 and stuff. It's super cutthroat, and everybody's doing amazing.
Yeah. It comes down to see whose car will last, because they're pushing their cars so much. We had quite a few issues where guys just their cars were. Nate Hamilton, he was suffering with the fuel issues, I think.
No, cooling issue.
Well, I know before we started, I know he was talking to the judges because I was there about he was having issues with the fuel pump and he was losing fuel pressure.
Yeah.
He seemed to make it through that, but then after the collision, I don't know what happened after that.
Yeah. It sounded pretty bad. But I mean, and I could hear him through practice before top 64. The car was misfiring. So the fuel pressure issues were real. But I mean, it's just the attrition of competition. These guys are pushing their cars to the max, and to make it all the way to the finals is an achievement.
Are you taking us to the bathroom?
I might be about to. I'm going to have to mute you guys for a second.
Okay. Let me...
Hold on just a minute. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Well, so while he's relieving himself. So what do you guys think as far as round 4, right? So is the driver's list up for round 4 yet?
No, it's not. It's too early for that.
No.
Okay. So right now in the point standings, the points has the points leaderboard been updated?
No, it has not been updated at the moment, but there's definitely going to be a shakeup with Alec Honadell and the situation with Nate Hamilton. Oh, who was number 2 that got knocked out?
Alec Honadell.
Yeah, no, that was number 1.
Ben Julian.
Ben Julian.
That's
Yeah, he
right.
got knocked out in top 32 by Nate Hamilton.
Mhm.
So, I mean, there's definitely going to be a shakeup in the points. I would like to see how this is going to create, the situations for round 4 and 5. Because now, I mean, if round 3 is where you really needed to start making the push for the championship, round 4 and 5, you have to be on fire because everybody's gunning for it. So
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting.
Yep.
To see how that plays out.
I'm just on the website right now, and yeah, it's not up yet.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
see, in the top 5, Alec Hondale, Ben Julian, Adam LZ, Nate Hamilton, Dirk Stratton. So I think, if I recall correctly, Adam LZ went the furthest, right?
Wait, now I'm confused.
What do you mean the furthest?
The furthest in the top 5? Possibly.
From the top 5.
Oh, from the
Yeah,
top
he
5?
placed 6th, I believe.
Yeah,
So, yeah, I think he would have been
right.
the
Because
furthest.
Hole's not in the top 5. He was 9th before, I think, right?
Yeah, he was
at the
ninth.
start of the event. He was
so,
ninth.
ninth. So we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we went over all the battles we're going to go. Is there anything else? I mean, we're probably about time to start wrapping things up anyways, no?
I have a couple of final questions. And
Keep going, then. Keep going. Ignore what I said.
Well, are you back?
Yeah, he's
I'm
back.
back.
Oh yes, all
Sorry.
right. He went to go relieve himself and refill.
Did you
Ooh,
wipe
I
the
didn't
seat?
think I was gonna make it.
Did you wipe the seat?
Oh no.
That's my Fast and Furious quote of the night.
That's good to know. Thank you, Tim.
Yes.
What was your reaction to Adam LZ's throttle cable breaking?
It was very disappointing.
Yeah,
It
I heard
made
it was
me real
rigged.
sad.
I heard the judges did
Rigged?
that. Yeah, that's why I saw in the chat.
Yeah, well, I had partially cut it before the event started. It took it until
Yeah.
the finals for it to break.
Yeah. I heard that it was being held together by some fruit roll-ups.
Well, it sucked as like for us announcers because we were like hyping it up like Taylor Ray versus Adam LZ.
It's a YouTube
This
battle.
Yeah, it was like this is gonna be the
Yeah.
biggest battle of the night, and then it's like no, not really. Here,
Yeah.
Womp,
womp
womp.
womp. Yeah. So I mean, it's
But allowed Taylor Ray to rematch Taylor Hole, so that was
Yeah.
exciting.
yeah, that it always ends up being that way. Taylor Ray versus Taylor Hall, and it's always exciting to watch those two drivers go at it anyway. So
But now Taylor Ray has 2 wins over him. I
yeah,
think?
two on one.
I got a question, and I want to just kind of break up, what you were going to say, just because I'll forget.
Okay.
Getting to that point where I forget. What do you think about Michael Elsie's car? Right, he took a perfectly good Supra.
Oh
And
God!
he pulled the JZ out and he put a V8 in. So what's your take on that? Being a Toyota guy, what do you think? Is that sacrilege?
I don't know. It's borderline.
He's not confrontational.
He's got to be
He's not
politically
gonna-
correct.
politically
right?
correct. Okay.
Yeah,
I figured I'd throw that at you.
Man, you are making
It never
yourself the villain, aren't
spins,
you?
so.
I'm just joking. Hey, it's working for him,
He was
right?
at the after party. You should have told him something.
I was sleeping.
I know.
I was sleeping. So, but I feel the same way, similar to when people put V8s in RX-7, especially in FD.
Yeah.
But they've been doing it for so long. I've had time to cope with it. Right.
Yeah,
this is
adjust.
still fresh. Right. This is that. Like, what? Are you serious? So it's gonna take me a few more. Maybe by round 5, I'll be like, all right. But right now it's kind of like,
It's tough, but it's definitely understandable.
Mhm.
It's funny with those chassis. Well, the Supra is like shorter in the front than the SC, but they're basically the same car.
Mhm.
When you put a V8 in them, it's like it looks tiny in the engine bay.
Mhm.
It sits way far back. It's really
Yeah.
weird looking.
It's good for weight distribution, though.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. You're taking weight off the front. The car can become snappier and be faster. I mean, it
makes it like a
definitely
mid-engine car. I don't know if you've ever looked at it.
Yeah.
Supra or an SC, but it's like the JZ engine is just barely over the cross member, so the V8 is like completely behind it or
Wow.
right on top of it.
So
The
several,
front of
several
the
benefits. Then.
V8.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so he knows what he's doing. It'll take me some time.
So a little 4-cylinder must be like in the passenger seat.
Oh well, I mean,
Blue.
back in the day in JGTC when it was called that, they had the Tom's Castro Supra with a 3S or 504E was it called?
No, they ran a 3S.
Oh, it was a
3S
3S
GT.
Okay, all right, yeah. So
Yeah, the 3S is completely behind the cross member.
Yeah.
like 100%.
Yeah, the handling of that car was incredible. So
I got a couple of victories from it. But going back to the event, and maybe not so much the event, Paul touched on something that I wanted to ask you about in regards to the after party. How was it like? And I don't know if you want to divulge too many details, but I sort of wanted to know, how was it like tandeming with Officer Dan with the dolphins and stingrays?
So it was going amazing. Also, we had Walters Booze, who's a media guy. Who's
Okay.
an amazing photographer. It was the three of us, and we decided to go in the ocean. And
To
everything was
explore
going great.
or just random adventure?
To adventure, to explore.
Okay.
Same.
At
We were
3
just
o'clock in
trying
the
to have
morning.
a good time. We I think we had all consumed some adult beverages. And I'm not that bright, so my wife, she warned me that I should remove my glasses if I'm going to be swimming in the ocean. And I wasn't planning on actually swimming, just wading in the ocean. So I disregarded her warning, and that was a terrible mistake.
So
How to ruin the after party.
So the question that follows that is, were Officers Dan's shorts still tight going into the ocean?
They were definitely tight going in, and then when we all started looking for my glasses, I think they got loose.
Okay. All right. Makes sense. It makes sense.
And the wind let out of his sails, unfortunately.
Yeah.
He ended his camping trip.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
So you never found it then, right?
No. They're probably on a different coast, I would imagine.
Yeah. I
Gone
think
forever.
if you lived in Florida, you've lost your glasses. I've lost glasses a couple times in the ocean.
Oh yeah.
Man.
I did a Google search on it because I was just curious, like, what direction does the tide take items you lose in the ocean? Basically, it was, if you lost it for more than 5 minutes, it's going to a different country. Like, it's
Oh, wow.
gone forever.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Whoa.
It's crazy how fast things travel.
Mhm.
Yes.
I'm curious, because of the time frame, did you take the opportunity to at least spend the time with Officer Dan to watch the sunrise together?
Oh.
We didn't make it to the sunrise.
Oh.
We almost did, though. It was close.
Oh man.
I did see a giant stingray, which was amazing.
Oh
So
boy.
that was cool.
Yeah, just don't step on it and don't pull the barb out if it hits you in the chest. Rest in
Yeah,
peace.
He was cruising. I kind of was, what is that? And I was, oh man, got to stay away from him.
Yeah.
Just cruising.
Yeah.
So closing thoughts in regards to the event overall.
Overall, I thought it was awesome. I thought people really stepped up. Even in the top 64, I feel people were driving better. Overall, I think the events are getting better and going smoother. We made a few adjustments. This is the first round where, out of all of them that I can remember, where multiple drivers came up and said that it was better. Even people that lost that normally would have been upset they were just, man, it went better. The judging was better. Everything went smoother. We weren't there, last round it went past 1 a.m. So
Right.
I think everybody was a lot happier that it didn't take as long.
Oh, we were.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
We were
It just
able to at
went
least
a
get
lot
some food somewhere.
smoother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anything in particular that drivers should be aware of to expect for the next round?
Not that I know of yet. We've been tossing around the idea of running the track backwards, but it's very difficult with where the spectators come into the track to have a layout that's backwards that works, but we're still talking about it. But as of now, everything is going to be the same, but we're kind of trying to figure it out how to do it backwards.
Okay. Good deal.
We've worked on some other layouts too, but it just with the pit spacing and everything, I think it's either going to be backwards or the same.
Okay.
Okay.
Interesting. Okay. So where can people follow you on the interwebs?
Like on Instagram, I'm just Will Parsons, and on Facebook, that's about it.
Okay.
Simple enough.
I can keep you updated on Houston's janky car scene. I like to catch stories of that.
Oh, there you go.
I see a lot of weird stuff in Houston, so.
Yeah, we see it down here too.
Yep.
Yeah, we might randomly come across a SR5 Coupe just like scooting on by, and we're like, "What is that?" So random.
That's me. I zoom.
Oh boy. Gentlemen, anything else? No, you good?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Any sponsors you want to hit up or
mention?
Yeah.
I don't know. I got performance and Figs. They always help me out, so they definitely hold it down for me.
Okay.
But that's about it. Klutch Kickers.
Yeah, of course.
Definitely.
Yep.
All right. Well, Will, we appreciate you taking the time to come and join us on the show tonight. We know it's not an easy job, as mentioned before. Some say it's a thankless job, but you're making the most out of it, and you're helping to, along with your colleagues, are helping to make this series challenging and exciting. And we can't wait to see what you guys do for the rest of the year. And again, we appreciate you taking the time. And folks, also for those of you who tuned in, thank you for taking a part, being part of this, submitting your questions, and we hope to see you for the next episode. Until then, good night.